Welcome back to another video. This is my 2001 Ram 3500, and today we are doing, well, the end goal is to do a transmission swap on it. Swapping out the stock 47 RE with basically no upgrades. I've done one fluid change on it, did a band adjustment, that's about it. Truck, as far as I know, I got the truck at 223,000 miles. I'm pretty sure it's still stock transmission, but I don't know for sure. Again, I don't know. I had the truck at 230,000 miles, 220, sorry. So like it could be going, who knows, it could be a second trans, third trans, who knows. The 47 RE is kind of a piece of crap when it's not been upgraded or taken care of. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the new trans that's going in it, but that's not this video. That's gonna be the next one for the reinstall, and then probably gonna be a 3-part series. The uninstall, so how to take it out. I guess the removal is a better word for it. The install video for how to put the new one in. And then a third one's gonna be a drive and kind of review video of how I feel about the new transmission. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get you guys excited by showing you the new trans real quick, and then we'll hop into the truck and start this whole process off. So just because I don't know if you guys have seen the truck before, but this is it right here. And I definitely like this truck. A lot of work's been going into it, and hopefully this is the last major piece that has to get done for a little while. So this right here is dynamic built transmission. This is a 47 RE, and it's their stage 2 build. Stage 2 means triple disc torque converter, billet flywheel, and then, or billet flex plate, flywheel, same thing pretty much. Flywheels for manuals, but yeah, you get it. A deeper pan, upgraded clutch packs, and then servos and a valve body that's also upgraded to match with the torque converter for the triple disc and help everything run nicely and together. There's more details in it. I'll probably go into that when we actually install the trans, but that's going to go in it. For right now though, we got to go ahead and install the 47 RE, and I'm going to be doing that pretty much right here as you see on the ground. So I bought a transmission jack a little while ago. This isn't the first time I've had this trans out, but yeah, it's gonna kind of suck doing it on the ground. We might have to jack up the truck a little bit to get it out all the way. I don't know yet. We shall see what happens when we get there. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and start on this little process here. All right, first thing I did, went ahead and disconnected the batteries. You gotta make sure you do both on 24 valve Cummins. I don't know how the other trucks are, but I have disconnected one battery before and you still get power to the truck. So definitely make sure both. I went with the positive just because it's easier for me. And then I'm gonna go ahead and hop onto the trucks. Next thing I wanna do is basically drop the pan and drain the fluid out of the old transmission. All right, so this is underneath. This is the transmission right here. And we're gonna go ahead and pop off all these bolts that run around the oil pan, on the transmission fluid pan, whatever you wanna call it. And basically all I'm gonna do is go ahead and pop them all off. And the way I wanna do this, I'm gonna pop off all of them except for a couple in the back. So I want the pan to drip forward. My drip pan right there is not actually big enough to catch everything. Size-wise in terms of, you know, width, I guess. So I want to make sure I have it and just drain everything out of the front first and then just slowly get it to drain that way. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and knock that out real quick. That's the next thing we're going to do. Before we get started, the pan bolts are all a 13 millimeter, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and use to get these off. Alright, so I went ahead and popped off the pan. If you're curious, that's what it looks like underneath. A little dipstick poking out right there, and then filter and everything. So the only reason I popped off the pan is because I need to go ahead and put the, I need to drain the fluid. But that was it. So we're going to put the pan back on real quick. I'm not going to show that. And then we're going to go ahead and get ready to keep going with this process. But, yep, that's progress so far. Alright, so next thing we're going to get working on is the drive shaft removal. So that's the next thing that needs to come out. And we're gonna start back there. There's 4 bolts that hold it onto the pinion gear. And then right up in here, there's 4 bolts that hold it up, and that's this carrier bearing. And the whole thing will slide right out after that. All right, so now that the drive shaft's out, I'm gonna go ahead and start working on this side of the transmission and start undoing stuff over here. So, got our cooler line needs to come out, other cooler line, I don't know which one's feed and return, it doesn't matter. TV cable has to come out, our shifter linkage has to come out, which runs up in here. And then we also gotta take out, what else? Our wire harness. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop all that stuff off, probably drain some transmission fluid out of the cooler lines, and we'll go ahead and get this side taken care of. Starter is also going to have to come out, but we're going to go do that a little bit later. So I don't know if you guys remember, I think I just figured out why I thought my TV cable was too short a long time ago. Oh, long story. Shifting issues. I extended it a little bit, about ½ an inch. It has a little clearance issues right here, and I'm willing to bet you money that if you flip this around so it sits here and brings this whole bracket, oh, I don't know, 1.5 or about 1 inch closer, I'll suddenly have my TV cable appropriate length that I'm supposed to have. So, yeah, that's where that went. That's hilarious. But, yep, that's where my missing TV cable length went. Wild. Alright, next thing we're going to go ahead and take off is the starter. You can see it up there. Although, ooh, it's got a nice crack in my fuel line. I did not notice that. Probably have to address that pretty soon here. Anyway, so what we're going to go ahead and do is take out the starter. It's 2 bolts up there. I believe they're 10mm, 12 points. There's a third one that's missing on mine, and then there's one on the very top. So I have the replacement one, I just haven't installed it yet. So let's go ahead and knock that out next. Alright, so went ahead and our starter is free. I just went through the top because it's on the ground. It's easier for me to get it that way. And this is our third one right here, the new one. So we have 3 bolts right there for the starter. I'm going to go ahead and set that out of the way. This is the main reason you need to disconnect the battery though, because that is a direct positive lead, and if it hits anything it'll short out because the whole truck's grounded. So I'm going to go ahead and move that out of the way, and then I think that's just about everything for this side of the transmission. Then we'll move on to the other side. Alright, so I'm just letting the starter hang. It's got a big fat cable to hang by, so I don't think it's going to hurt anything. On this side, the only thing, we have 2 things to worry about, and that is this tube right here. That's the dipstick, and that's held in with one of the trans bolts. And then I have a transmission temperature sensor right here, so I'm going to go ahead and pop that out real quick and just let it dangle. And then we got to get these 2 trans lines out of the way. So one of them I'm pretty sure I left in here last time, but I want to disconnect both from up top, and then I think it's just going to probably wind up staying where it is though. But I'd rather have them loose than tight to give me a little more wiggle room. After that's done, we can start taking off the cross port. Well, actually that's not true. So after that's done, we got to pop off this little cover here, and we got to take off all of the bolts that are for the flex plate to the torque converter. Alright, so this is the next part. This one definitely sucks. So I gotta go ahead and take off these lines right here, or at least loosen them up to get specifically this front one out of the way, which is the short one that goes right here, because I need to be able to get a tool in that top hole right there to actually loosen up all the torque converter bolts. So I'm gonna go ahead and start removing this thing, and it really does suck, but I'm gonna do this off camera because it's so tight in here, and then I'll show you, I'll get back with you guys once I start doing the torque converter bolts and so on. All right, so I went ahead and popped out the line up there, and then it started pouring out of the drain right there, which I presume goes to the cooler, getting a little air in there. And then I still don't know what the heck that thing is up there that's actually draining right now, but I'm just gonna go ahead and let this drain out for a while. It's gonna be a bit, and then once it's done, it'll be good. I'll be done with this thing. Done with this part of it anyway. So I'm gonna let this stuff drain out and then continue on. All right, so as you can see, this is up in the transmission area. Right here, that top hole up in here, you can actually feel a bolt, and there's 6 of them, and those are the flywheel bolts that are the flex plate to torque converter bolts. There's 6. And then once you remove this cover right here, there's a bunch of teeth. I don't know if you can, it's gonna focus or not. But yeah, you can see the teeth right there. So what I do is I take a screwdriver, and all I do is just basically wedge it. Let me see if I can show you real quick. So all I do is take a screwdriver and right in here, get it caught in a tooth, and then you can basically turn the torque converter like so, back and forth as you need it, as you see fit. So I had it where I need it, so that's what I'm doing right now. But I'm gonna go ahead and take out the 6 bolts, and then once that's done, that'll be pretty much it from anything connecting it to the motor. Well, the actual the crank, I guess, the rotating assembly. After it's disconnected from there, we can start taking off the transmission bolts themselves. All right, so all 5 torque converter bolts are out now. 6 in normal trucks. Mine is missing 1, but you can see the converter is now spinning freely compared to the flex plate. So now that that's done, next thing we're gonna go ahead and start doing is popping out the transmission bolts that are holding it in. So these are the flex plate bolts to the torque converter. Real small little guys right here. They are a 16 millimeter is what worked for me. And yeah, so I'm gonna take out 3 bolts on each side. So this one, the next one up there, and there's one more a little bit higher up that you can't quite see. And the same thing on the other side. I'm leaving these 2 bottom ones in because they're very easy to access, and they're gonna hold it up for me. Once these are out, then I'm gonna go and take the cross member out, and then get the trans jack in here. And I don't want to deal with trying to work around the transmission jack while trying to get those upper bolts, which is why I'm doing it first. All right, so we have removed 3 bolts on either side, and only 2 left right now holding the transmission. There's that one right there, and there's one right there. Not too bad to get to. Basically use a bunch of extensions, and they are a 14 millimeter. And there's one on the top, one on top of the starter, one below the starter, and then same thing on the other side. So 2 on the top of the starter, 1 below it, and there's gonna be 1 more, so 8 bolts total. Now this is the new transmission jack I just picked up today. I've done stuff like this before, never had my own jack before, so finally picked one up. And before we go and throw anything around here, there is a chain that needs to go around here and everything, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use ratchet straps because straps I got are a lot stronger, and I generally like the straps better than the chain. They get a tighter grip, but all this is gonna do is basically hug the transmission pan, and that's why we had to put the pan back on. And then we're just gonna jack it up a little bit because it needs to go up a hair more. You can see it's starting to raise up just a hair. See that? There we go. So now we know the weight's on the jack and not on the cross member, so we can go ahead and pull the cross member out, get all this extra stuff off of here, and get it transferred over to the new one. So without further ado, let me go ahead and start working on that now. Started moving her relay. It's time to get the last 2 bolts in the bottom. After the cross members out, that was pretty much it. There is this linkage piece right here. It's really hard to see for you guys, unfortunately, but it sits right, it's this piece right here. This guy right here. So it's held on by 3 13 millimeter bolts, and that's the bracket that goes right up in here. So pop that off to kind of give it a little more clearance so I can pull it out of the way because it's pumping into the trans right there. And now that that's off, we should be able to drop this thing. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get it out from underneath the truck without lifting up the truck a little bit, but we'll cross that bridge in a few minutes. In the meantime, I'll keep working and seeing how far we can get this. I wanna get it down, completely detached, no snags, anything like that. So it's actually not too bad. It's going along quicker than I remember it happening last time. Alright, so this is the next day. We officially got the transmission out from underneath the truck. I had jacked it up quite a bit, as you can see, but I got some pretty thick flat center blocks under here. Or I guess cement blocks, so it's not going anywhere. Had the jack under there, but basically all I had to do is get the frame rails up enough, and we got enough clearance up top. So that worked out. But now I got to figure out how I'm going to go ahead and get the new transmission onto the trans jack and the old transmission in that box. So probably going to wind up getting some friends over to help out with that one, because it's obviously pretty dang heavy. So that's going to go ahead and do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed kind of like get an idea of how this whole thing works. It's honestly a pretty simple process. I mean, you got torque converter bolts, you got your flex plate bolts, so you got to come off still. I actually forgot about those. I haven't done those yet, but it's just 6, I think, that go straight into the flywheel. I'll take the flex plate off because we're replacing that. So not too much else to really do, to be honest. We're doing pretty good progress, so I'm going to go ahead and pretty much get to it. I'm going to pop out the flex plate bolts starting in the next video. That's what we'll pick up at, and good to go. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in part 2 where we start reinstalling the new transmission.